Hey everybody, this is Raphael. I am currently at Project Walk in Houston, and Jacob, the
Co-owner.
the co-owner, had was gracious enough to allow me to take some of his time so we could have a discussion about Project Walk, what it is that they do, and how they help out the paralytic community and other people who have suffered some kind of injury that they need assistance with. So let's go ahead and let's see if this thing sets fine. Folks, sorry it's a little bendy. I am not a professional sheep herder. I'm a professional operations manager. It's completely different. Okay. So, all right. I think I'm in the shot. So, sorry. I don't know how you feel about socially distant or anything like that, but I think
We're okay. Everybody's been vaccinated in the facility, so
Great.
Texas has been recently loosening and opening up more, so we're happy.
Fantastic. So, as you're aware, I'm making a trip across America on behalf of people who have suffered spinal cord injuries, primarily for the Triumph Foundation. But we do have a Project Walk pretty close to us in San Diego. So, can you tell us a little bit about Project Walk Houston and what it is how you got into this particular profession and what your passion is, and how you take that passion into Project Walk?
Sure. I sort of fell into this profession, I think a lot of people, the way they end up here is either through relationships and people that they know become affected, or you just kind of happen upon it. I used to work in sports performance and sort of physical therapy aid, and did lots of different things with human movement. There used to be a Project Walk facility in Dallas when I was living about 9 years ago, and saw a job posting, applied, realized wow, this is an amazing job. Didn't get it the first time, and so just kept trying, and then eventually got into it and got a job and loved it ever since. And then myself and the other co-owner, who's working right now on the floor, Ross, we were working together in Dallas, and one of our clients was living here in the Houston area. His mom and dad had been driving him to Dallas because there's not a lot of resources. We kind of chatted a little bit ago about how paralysis community is always really hard to find good resources, and so they were going all the way to Dallas to get something. And after about 6 months, they really came to the idea of what if we brought something to Houston? It's really needed. And so they asked Ross and myself if we'd be interested in coming down here and starting a business, starting the Project Walk. And that was about 6.5, 7 years ago at this point. And so we moved down here. Ross is originally from Southeast Texas. I'm Central Texas, but we came down and started it up, and about 1.5 years ago, the Dremleys had decided, that they really wanted us to take control and keep it going forward. They really felt confident that we were set for it, and Ross and I had basically been running it, so we set an agreement and we took over ownership. And first year was weird with 2020, but that's sort of how we fell into this in a nutshell. But the big part of it is just absolutely loving working with paralysis recovery. Of all the things that I've done, whether it's, like I said, sports performance or physical therapy or personal training, or nothing compares to working with somebody that's dealing with a spinal cord injury, a stroke, Totally different approach, totally different mindset, and totally different fulfillment.
So now we know that the average insurance coverage is only about 3 months for physical therapy. In some cases, people may have really, really great insurance that will go up to 6 months. But how far out do you see people continuing to make gains when they continue to come to physical therapy and Project Walk? How long after they're introduced?
It's really interesting, because we get clients that may be 6-7 years out from their injury, that they have really infrequent periods of physical therapy. Sort of every year they get about 20 sessions, maybe 30 sessions. So they really plateau on a level of what they can do, and then they come in, and it can be a year out, it can be 5 years out. You see progress and recovery gains that they're impressed with within a week, 2 weeks of consistent therapy and training, because they've just not had the opportunity to see it. You
Yeah.
know? So, a lot of times we run into clients that say, well, I heard that if you don't get anything within the first year, you're not going to see any new recovery. And that's not been our experience.
No, I don't think that's been anybody's experience.
I don't know where that number came from, but I've never liked it.
Yeah, I think that there are a lot of people that once they get their injury, the doctor will tell them something like that, like, that's it, you're done, there's nothing else, and then they'll come and they'll start with their physical therapy, and people continue to make gains years after, like years after. So one of the things that we see is that the insurance companies, it's a drop in the bucket of their budgets to be able to provide a little bit more resources. And so what would you say the difference is between the first 3 months after the injury versus like after a year?
I think in the first 3 months, there's a lot of, especially with spinal cord injuries, they're so traumatic in nature most of the time. There's a lot of just healing recovery that's occurring in the first 3 months. I mean, from anybody that's even just had a regular major orthopedic surgery, your body is absolutely dealing with anesthesia effects and the fact that your body's been cut open and healing. Like, I've always been confused why, classifications occur immediately in a spinal cord injury, considering the body is dealing with such a traumatic injury. It could have a lot more than just the spinal cord injury that they're dealing with and recovering from. So, I think a lot of times once the body's healed up a little more from surgeries is when you start to see more consistent gains of recovery or sensation or, just overall function.
I like that analogy because it's like you're comparing one injury to all other injuries. And if somebody, like if I break a knee, it's gonna take a long time after the surgery, just to go from the surgery.
Imagine if they told you the day after your surgery, well, this is what you're gonna be able to do with your knee. That doesn't make any sense.
Doesn't make any sense.
From a neurological standpoint, there's other stuff involved, right? But just the way the body heals, it's not immediate. And so, I think you could see recovery and gains over a year, 2 years.
What would you say is the number one question that patients ask you when they first come here?
Oh man, I mean, the number one is always, am I going to be able to walk again, or am I going to see full recovery again? And it's always a hard question because the vast majority of people that deal with spinal cord injuries, you may not see full return of function. I mean, it's not a thing that you just go out there saying everybody's going to see full recovery. But the conversation we always like to have with somebody is that if your focus is you want to get the best you can be, if you want to get as much recovery as you can, and maybe that's a little bit, maybe that's a lot, maybe it's full, really push yourself to find out early on. And then the next question is always, how can I get the resources to do it? We're a facility that we're not covered by insurance traditionally. More places like us are starting to get some insurance coverage, some conversations, if you get with a really good adjuster and, they really go to bat for you. And there's more doctors and, neurologists and surgeons that I think are starting to be willing to refer and go to the insurance company and say, look, these are real active recovery places that they're benefiting the clients. They're not just some guy in a garage. So first question is always, what can I get back? And the second question is, how do I get the money or the resources, or how can I find a way to keep getting this kind of training? Because it's a burden. Everything, once you get a spinal cord injury, the whole lifestyle of your house has to deal with.
Everybody deals with
accessibility.
It's not just one person. It affects everybody involved.
And everything in your life has to change now. You have to get an accessible mode of transportation. You have to get caretaker help. You have to get a house that can fit your needs that you probably weren't ready for. Your whole life in the first year, most of the time, is people trying to figure out how to put things together. How do I get a regular caretaker and train? So places like this are, they really need to have access, but they're so busy doing the other stuff, it's hard.
I think that the link between having more advocacy and more insurance coverage, so that it's like somebody gets injured, automatically it should be covered. like to come to physical therapy, to come to a place like this automatically. Because if they can do that, they have like insurance plans for people who have unfortunately suffered like from drug addiction, and they'll pay for all of that.
Right, for recovery.
For recovery. And it's
Right.
like, so it can't be that far away. It's so there's,
Yeah.
So what would you say should be done or could be done to close that gap?
I think places like this are a great asset in the basic insurance coverage kind of gaps, because I think a lot of times the reason physical therapy gets so limited is because the cost of therapy can be extremely high.
Yeah.
And I've seen some of the billing that goes through insurance and PT clinics, and it can be $300-400 an hour for what can be really limited. And that's not saying anything negative about it.
Sure.
It just can be a limited training. And places like this exist with they're not licensed physical therapists, but they're people that have background in education and movement. They've put lifetimes of effort into this and research and practice with hands-on safety, and it's at a much lower cost. So financially, I think it fits for more insurance companies to try activity-based recovery.
I think it's a really great model.
It fits the gap. I mean, there's always great things that hospitals and PT clinics have resources that are phenomenal. They have wonderful pieces of equipment, the cutting edge things, and as much as I would love that stuff, we're working with a training center of adaptive equipment. So I think the gap. We've been recently talking. The governor of Texas, Greg Abbott's been trying to put together programs that are covered under Health and Human Services that are vendors like us that provide resources that, through Medicaid, Medicare, maybe can provide a cheaper alternative therapy, activity. So I think that's a great start.
What's next?
Just in general is the equipment.
Yeah.
So basically, the majority of our equipment is basic equipment that we adapt to our needs. There are some specialized pieces that are really beneficial. We use Easy Glide standing frames like a lot of people. We have harness systems like the Rift and Tram. And we have a basic treadmill with a harness system, the lightweight light gate harness system we use for gait training, helping take load off. Two most probably specialized pieces are the FES bikes. We use that for, we can take it on the floor and use electrical stimulation. Our clients can sit there and ride after their training session. The rest of it, the vast majority is just, a training center. We have basic hammer strength pieces of equipment, things that we think can be used and adapted for people with spinal cord injuries and strokes. We have tables that we do a lot of, nervous system recruitment work. Basic things like a kneeling pad, Total Gyms over in the corner with foot plates on them.
Do you ever do any like adjustments? Like if somebody's the cox bone pulls out, or do you do any adjustments?
Oh, no. If you're talking sort of like chiropractic kind of adjustments, no. We don't dabble too much into adjustments, or even sort of. We have clients that try lots of alternative therapies, acupuncture, massage, chiropractic is one of them. We're more, if I had to put it, it's sort of like we're considered adaptive-based recovery or activity-based recovery, but it's like a little bit more aggressive physical therapy. Private training that's focused on big movements. So most of the sessions start off on the tables and the therapy tables, working on small movements, getting the body warmed up, getting the nervous system excited.
I won't put anybody in the shadow.
No, that's fine. They've actually, Daniel and Cliff have both signed
the patients.
waivers.
No, patients.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't want to put any of the patients in there.
And then from the first hour, whenever we're on the table, we move out to the rest of the floor where we do the bigger movements. Kneeling, crawling, standing, walking, leg presses on the Total Gym, hip glute movements. We try to build into the second hour. Honestly, the biggest pieces of equipment we have in here, the most functional ones, are all the little stuff you see. Yoga mats and blocks and gait belts and little RX pads. I mean, with a good specialist and a hard worker and basic equipment, you can do wonderful things. That's why I always say hospitals have really great resources, and I would love to have them, but you can do some great stuff with basic
Absolutely.
equipment. Yeah,
Absolutely.
It's really about the effort and the safety you put into it.
Wow. Well, that's very, very cool. I really like the facility.
Appreciate it.
and
I mean,
it's-
I know
it's
you've
like-
ridden a long way. So.
I've ridden a long ways. Yeah, I've ridden a long way. I've got a bit of a ways to go. But all right, folks. So I'm at the Project Walk in Houston. Make sure you click on the description below. It'll take you directly to their website. And if you have any questions, I'm sure you can email or make any
Jacob.
comment.
Yeah.
Jacob. And he'll answer some of those questions for you. So if you need physical therapy, if you suffered a spinal cord injury, it's definitely a resource you need to look at and check it out. So we'll talk to you again soon.